So charts are a really nice way to visualize your data. I've got a very simple table here of names and scores, and so we're just going to highlight this group here, including the headers. We're going to click on Insert, and we're going to just start with these charts here. We're going to pick this bar graph. I'm going to throw that in here. I'll blow it up so you can see it a little bit better. And automatically Excel decided what the title of the chart's going to be. It figured out that the names and the scores should be positioned this way. If this is wrong, you can right click on this. We can do select data, and we can swap your score and names around. You can increase or change your range data here. So for example, let's we'll leave it back on this one, but I want to add Jerry, and he has a score of 15. You can see that Jerry wasn't added, so if I right click here, I'm going to have to select my data and then go back and include Jerry or whoever I'm adding to it, and then it adds it. Over here I can click on this paintbrush and change the style of the graph, or I can change the color of the graph. If I want, I can customize this even further. Let's get out of this, and I can double click on it, and over here I get this format data point, and if I click on the paint fill, I can then decide under the fill I want this color to be yellow, and you can do that for all of these different ones, so you can make them whatever you want them to be. This one's going to be red, and really customize your chart. So speaking of customized chart, I have this one here, which is a horse race that we've set up that's looking at some sales data. So let's start off by removing some of our sales data. And you can see it redoes the whole chart for us. Very cool. But let's go ahead and delete it. We're going to start this from scratch so you can see what's going on. One thing to note is we're using this formula here to indicate the picture size. I'll explain that a little bit more detail. But we're going to select this group of data. This is going to be our sales data. We're going to go back up here to Insert, and we're going to pick the bar. Now we're going to be using a 2D stacked bar, and we're going to click OK, and let's make this a little bit bigger for us to see. There we go. Now you'll notice that this orange section here for the stack bar, which is the picture formula, looks roughly the same in each one of these. So the way that I did that is I calculated the max value out of the totals here. So in this case it would be D15, which is the $3,060. And then I divide that by 7, which this number is kind of arbitrary. I picked it because I felt that it fit the size of the graphic that I'm going to use. But if your graphic is smaller or longer, then you may want to play around with that. And we'll see that in a different example shortly. So we're going to go ahead and just leave that as is. So again, that's max of this group, and then divide that by some number that gives you the size that you're looking for. All right. So we're going to start by removing these grid lines, or changing the grid lines rather. So we're just going to click on here. We're going to pick on this plus sign. We're going to come to grid lines, and we're going to remove the vertical, but we're going to add some horizontal. And then I'm going to click off of that, and I'm going to select just the grid line itself. And you can see I've got all 4 of these highlighted. I'm going to change the width of these to 4. So it's going to be a little bit thicker of a line. But you can say no line, gradient line. You can color the line if you want to make it some other color. Do all kinds of cool stuff with this. Next, we're going to right click on the bars. So I want all of the bars to be selected. So we've got all 3 of our bars. I'm going to right click and I'm going to add the data label. Now you can see that we have very faintly, you can read the number of the total for each person, but it's hard to read. So let's further customize this. So we're going to come over here to the paintbrush, or I'm sorry, the paint fill, and I'm going to get rid of that color on the fill, and then I'm going to get rid of the border. So now when I click off of it, you can't see the bar at all. Next, I'm going to select the data labels themselves, and I'm going to click on this bar icon, which is the label options, and expand that. And I want this to be at the inside edge, and so what that does is it shoves it over at the very top of the graph, or in this case, the right-hand side. Then I'm going to play around my font here. I'm going to make them a lot bigger. I'm going to make them green, because later on we're going to do some green stuff, and I want them bold and italicized. So there we go. Now, another thing you'll notice is that these names are in the incorrect order compared to our chart. So it starts off with Joe, Sally, Brian, and that's and this is not even the same, so it's backwards. So I'm going to select that, and over here I want to, under the bar label options again, I want to categorize in reverse order. I'm sorry, categories in reverse order. And then that spins everything around so it's going to be in the exact same order as my chart is in. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to colorize this, and we're going to make the font a little bigger. We're going to do the same thing with the legend at the top. And then down here, we're going to get rid of this legend. I don't want it, so we're going to delete that, and now that's gone. Let's give this a different title. We're going to call this the horse race. And again, we're going to go ahead and give it some more, a little bigger, the same color fonts, keep everything a little consistent. Now the next part we're going to do is we're going to need some images of some horses. So it could be any kind of image that you want, but it needs to have a transparent background, and I'd recommend that the images are roughly the same size. So we're going to right click on this, and click on it. I don't want all of them selected, so we're going to click again, so I'm only selecting the one. I'm going to right click now, and under the fill option here, I'm going to choose a picture. And I believe, by the way, you can get to it from here as well. You can, oh wait, picture. So you can do that as well, and then you can insert a picture. But I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. And we're going to do from file. And you're going to want to browse to where you have these downloaded. So I have a horses folder, and we're going to pick this horse 2. And then we're going to do it again. And we're going to repeat this process 3 times until we have them all with different unique pictures. And as you can see, they're a little different compared to the original size. So you come back over here and you can play around with how this looks. So 8 makes it a little more compressed. 5 makes it a little longer. So play around with this until you get it to the way that you like it. And so that kind of gives you a slightly better thing, slightly better proportions to the image that you're working with. So we're almost finished. We have a few more things we're going to change. So next, we're going to give this, the track itself, a texture fill. Oops. We're going to do a texture, not texture, I'm sorry, a gradient fill. Pattern fill, that's what I want to use. And we're going to make it look like some grass. So let's take a look. So you can change the color around, so let's make it more of a grassy look. And just find one that you really like that gives you that grassy knoll kind of feeling from a racetrack. And then lastly, I'm going to change the background of the entire chart. We're just going to do a solid fill on this and play around with the colors until you get something that you like. Now lastly, once you're completed with your design of your horse track, you can start filling in your sales data. So we sold something for $3.50, and you can see my horse is moving along in the track. Oh, and Brian there jumps to the lead. So now we have Joe kind of lagging behind here, but let's see if Sally catches up, because she sold something for $750, and she moves in the lead, or pretty close. She's right on Brian's heels. Well, Brian didn't happen to sell anything in September or August. So, but Joe continues to be a great seller, and Sally misses one, but Brian sells a very small contract, but maintains his lead. But as you can see, as we add our sales data, we start getting a very nice, cool horse race that you can take screenshots of and share this with your sales team. Here we've got a very similar graph, but here we're using a space race. We're using the exact same data, same kind of images, but you can see here our formula is by 3 for the proportions of our spaceship. So I encourage, and then also here we used a gradient fill, on our bar graph, which is here, and you can add some gradient colors here and play around with that. You can add and remove the color, and then of course you can choose the color that you want for that to change that out. I encourage you to go through this exercise and see if you can reproduce the space race on your own.